Good morning, Dan and Amy. Wall Street Journal columnist Jason Riley has a good angle on the $3.5 trillion in funny money that is still being kicked around by the House and Senate socialists, as we were talking about with Senator Mike Braun just a couple of minutes ago. He compares it to the Great Society of the 60s for the underclass. This is the Great Society for the upper class. And so when we talk about extending transfer payments to middle and even high income earners, we're going to just talk about, well, that doesn't make sense because they don't need it. But it also doesn't make sense because they shouldn't want it. Look what being a ward of the state has done for people that were strivers a few generations ago. He makes the point. Jason Riley, that is, between 1940 and 1960, the percentage of black families living in poverty declined by 40 points as blacks increased their years of education, migrated from poorer rural areas to more prosperous urban environs in the South and North. No welfare program has ever come close to replicating that rate of black advancement, which predates affirmative action programs that often receive credit for the black middle class. What we experienced in the wake of the Great Society interventions was slower progress or outright retrogression. Black labor force participation rates fell, black unemployment rates rose, and the black nuclear family disintegrated. In 1960, fewer than 25% of black children were being raised by a single mother. 4 decades later, it was more than half, and now it's 3/4. And the culture that it propagates. He also references a coming book on housing policy from an AEI, American Enterprise Institute scholar, Howard Husock. I believe we've had him on the show. The Poor Side of Town and Why We Need It. He looks at government housing. The median time a family spends in New York City public housing today is 19 years. 10% of residents in New York City public housing have been there for more than 40 years. Public housing was intended to help families through a rough patch.
Right.
In fact,
the Lathrop homes here in Chicago, they were built to help, people whose wives and their families and children whose loved ones were fighting war.
Right.
That's the whole point of the housing, and then that it changed over
to a multi-generational poverty trap.
Yeah.
Which is what it is. And
they used to take a percentage of your salary, and then at Cabrini Green, it was just $25 a month.
So when you see the aspects of the $3.5 trillion spend, like workers making $200,000 a year would be eligible for a national paid family and medical leave program, or the child tax credit for households earning as much as $150,000, which was part of the American Rescue Plan Act earlier this year, already passed. You should look at it and say, well, not only does that not make sense, if you're in those categories, I don't want it. I don't want to be put in the trap that other people were put in unwittingly 60 years ago, because this is not about white, black, or brown. This is about disincentives to do the right thing that affects black, white, and brown equally. You pervert people's incentives, you keep them in a state of dependency, you will see the same outcome regardless of race. And so I really appreciate Jason Riley's warning to those who think they've all got it all figured out because they're making good scratch right now. If you're on board with this gambit, this great society for the rest who aren't dependent, then you don't have it figured out. For more on this, we're pleased to be joined by Steve Moore, economist, Wall Street Journal columnist, author of Trumponomics. Steve, thanks for joining us.
Hi, guys. I was just listening to your soliloquy there, Dan, and I was remembering, and when I grew up in Chicago, as you know, I'm a Chicago boy. I remember Cabrini Green and how incredibly dangerous that area was. And also, I don't even know if they still, do the Robert Taylor homes still?
No, they raised those years ago.
Well, remember how that the police wouldn't even go into the Robert Taylor homes. That's how dangerous it was. You had two huge towers. People would shoot at each other across the street from the windows of the buildings. And I remember thinking, oh my God, what is wrong with our country? What an idiotic idea is to storehouse the low-income people, many of them on drugs, many have all sorts of problems in an area with very few men. It was almost all single women with no fathers around. It was a recipe for disaster. And the question now really is, and I get asked this all the time, is this intentional? Are the Democrats trying to make tens of millions of more Americans dependent on government? They're creating all these new entitlements.
Yes.
You mentioned the one about paid leave.
There's your answer. Yes. Yes.
Do they want to make Americans dependent on government rather than the private sector? I want to add one other thing, again. You were mentioning, what has happened with Black economic progress. The best 3 years for economic progress in our lifetime was 2017, 2018, and 2019 under Donald J. Trump, when we cut taxes, reduced regulations, we got rid of a lot of the welfare programs, and we had massive benefits to Black Americans. So we had the lowest Black poverty rate in the history of the country under Trump. And we also had the lowest unemployment rate. And by the way, not just Blacks, but Hispanics as well. So it's the free enterprise system. It's not dependency on government that will create an environment where minorities can succeed in this country. And we're moving in the opposite direction.
Right. And by the way, they've seen that it works. So you create dependency. You break the barrier between kids and government, and that's parents.
Right.
You break that barrier, and you have a constituency that will vote 90% for you. And so why don't we try it with those who we don't have in our camp yet? We've got the Mercedes Marxists, the overeducated, and those insulated from terrible public policy. We've got the dependents, the transfer payment dependents. Now we need more in the middle to cement our majority.
Well, I mean, you even hear people say, "When are my Biden checks coming? When am I getting the $300 per child per month? You got three children, you get $900 from free money from the government." That kind of dependency you have now, right now in America. It's been about 18 months since COVID hit, and we started creating all these super unemployment and welfare programs. You've had now 18, 19 months of many millions and millions of Americans who have not worked for 18 months. And incidentally, we have a new study by Casey Mulligan and myself and E.J. Antoni at the Committee on Least Prosperity. We show that the increased unemployment benefits in just the months of June, July, and August in blue states like Illinois, California, New Jersey, New York, et cetera, 800,000 jobs were lost because of that policy. In other words, if the states like Illinois and New York and New Jersey had done what Texas, Florida, and Tennessee had done and got rid of those extra benefits, we would have had 800,000 more people working. I don't know if the Democrats want people working. I don't get the logic of this. There's 10.9 million job openings today. I was just reading some story. Oh, my gosh, the income inequality is increasing. We need more benefits for people. We need to get people into the workforce on the economic ladder. You can't get out of poverty. You can't be successful in America if you're on welfare. It's that simple. You got to get a job. You got to start climbing the ladder.
Are the Democrats going to keep this going? COVID and then all these entitlement programs and throwing money at us. All of a sudden, $300 is in my checking account. Where did that come from? Are they going to keep doing this until the midterms?
Oh, for sure. By the way, late yesterday, you might have not heard this news because it happened, very late in the day. The Democrats passed a massive multi-trillion-dollar in the House, a multi-trillion-dollar increase in the debt ceiling,
right?
And they authorized their what's called continuing resolution. So they've got their $6 trillion budget on tap right now. And now the interesting story that's going on is the Democrats and the media are trying to shame the Republicans into voting for this massive debt ceiling increase because it's their responsibility to do it. They have to ask fiscal responsibility. We're going to have a debt crisis. Like the debt crisis is the fact that you're borrowing so much damn money. You're slow.
So
the Democrats are set to authorize $12 trillion of new spending. $12 trillion.
So let's start with the debt ceiling. So do you think McConnell holds the caucus together and they hold on the debt ceiling and make the Democrats wear it?
He should. And
I know he should.
Very consistently, and I believe he will. I don't think there's a single Republican who will crack. Look, the Democrats, since the day they took over power, they own Washington right now. They run the White House. They run the House. They run the Senate. They've been steamrolling. Every bill that they passed has been only with Democrat votes. We don't need you guys. I talked to Kevin Brady, who's the ranking Republican on the Ways and Means Committee. He said they're not even allowing us in the room while they write these bills. They're not even pretending like they're negotiating with us. The only bill that they are asking Republicans to vote for is a debt ceiling increase, which enables them to spend and borrow $6 trillion more money. The Republicans can't be that stupid. And by the way, Washington Post, by the way, Dan, on the front page of their newspaper on Sunday, the front page, they put an editorial. I mean, essentially an editorial saying Mitch McConnell's a terrible person.
Right.
He's trying to force the nation to default on its debt. It's all BS. The crisis is how much money these people want to borrow, not the fact that the Republicans won't raise the debt ceiling.
And so on the matter of the 3.5 plus the 1.2 trillion, this game.
Wait. Yeah,
Okay.
Stop.
Yes.
I've heard you say this 3 times in the last 5 minutes. 3.5 trillion. That is not a $3.5 trillion bill. It is a $5 trillion bill.
Well, okay.
They are using
Dan, get it right, Dan.
4.7.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
So it's $5 trillion.
Okay. All right. But so right. Well, okay. I was breaking it out, but yes, I agree. So what is your read on the public game of brinkmanship between House and Senate socialists right now? Where you have to pass the $3.5 trillion for reconciliation over to the House in order to get the 1.2 from us, and that's how it's got to go. What's your read on how this plays out? What they're doing and how this plays out?
Well, we started a group last week called with Larry Kudlow and others called Save the Country, Kill the Bill. We have to stop this bill. This is the worst single bill in the history of the United States in terms of dealing with our economy. It will bankrupt our country. It'll massively increase welfare, increase tax rates to the level they were in the 1970s. It's an incredibly bad bill. I mean, I could spend 20 minutes with you just going through all the horrible things. It's a war on small businesses. Now, the Democrats are so greedy right now. They want to pass the $1.2 trillion sham infrastructure bill, which is basically the Green New Deal, and this $5 trillion, Great Society 2 bill. I think Jason Riley's right. I don't know. The Democrats are splintering right now. I mean, Joe Manchin's saying, he's the senator from West Virginia. The Democrats saying, why don't we have a strategic pause? Why don't we just slow down here a little bit? And I love that idea. Slow down. By the way, do you know how long this bill is going to be? 5,000 pages long. Mm-hmm. How many members of Congress, Amy, do you think are going to read a 5,000-page bill?
Well, it's a good beach read, but now it's fall, so I don't know.
And again, my pro forma response: how many members of Congress can read? Even?
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, right.
Well, my thing is, why don't we just have a pledge that every Democrat, you got a lot of Democrats there in the Chicago area, Democratic congressmen and women, you should get a pledge from them that before they vote on anything, that they will read the bill.
Robin Kelly will be all over that.
The bill?
No, I got an idea. We'll have Danny Davis do a books on tape rendition of it. He's got that deep Lou Rawls voice that'll put people to sleep by the third paragraph.
I love it. By the way, do you know the reason they don't? One of the things McConnell's saying is before anybody votes on this bill, we're going to read the bill on the Senate floor, and the Democrats are howling in protest. You know why?
Because it's
going to take them 2 to 3 weeks to read the bill on the floor. Even if they go 24 hours, 7 days a week.
Steve Moore, economist, Wall Street Journal columnist, Trumponomics author. Steve, thanks as always.
Okay, guys, have a great week.
You too. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Listen to podcasts of Dan and Amy from the AM 560 mobile app. Download it today at 560theanswer.com/mobile.
What will you do if there's a sudden food shortage? Given recent headlines, it seems likely, and at any moment. That's why it makes common sense to build your emergency food storage supply now while you still can.